All right, we starting a new build here. This is a 5.3, and it is, you can't tell, but it's fresh. Um, the customer wanted us to do this build, and I had to have ankle surgery, so he couldn't wait, so he ended up somewhere else, I don't know, and somehow it got put together, and I believe, yeah, it's standard. So it's one of them dingleberry hone jobs. So it's got standard pistons. It's been dingleberry honed, and I'm sure it's wore out. And I hadn't seen the end to the bottom end, but it ended up back here. Well, I mean, it had never been here, but it ended up here. Um, and so they called and wanted to know if they could bring it by and we could go through it and fix the problems. And so when it got here, we popped the heads off, and the customer knew, but it had rained, got water. I don't understand how, when, or where, but it had got water in the cylinders, and all the cylinders are just covered in rust. And then the decks are rusty, but that happened here. But the cylinders, come over here close. I mean, you can see how bad that is. I mean, they are just crusty. Look at this one. So nobody knows how that happened. Is what I'm hearing, but just from what I can see, zero machine work has been done. It's just a dingleberry hone job, and they put some new pistons and new rings and new bearings. They actually did buy the bearings and pistons and the rings and the head stuff. Oh, that's another thing. And they bought head studs from me, and when it got here, it had 4 head bolts on this side and 1 head bolt on this side. So whoever done the work lost a bunch of the ARP studs. So it's just a catastrophe. So we're going to tear it all the way. Andrew actually is going to tear it down, and we're going to get everything inspected, and then we're going to send the block to be thermal cleaned to get all this rust out of all the crevices. And then we are going to bore it to a LS1. We've already ordered a set of Wiseco pistons for it. And I believe this thing, when it's all said and done, it's going to get a Torque Storm supercharger, a little small one. So it's just, I don't think it's going to be no top fuel dragster. It's like a show truck or something. I don't remember all the details exactly. But just stay tuned. We're going to get everything swapped over and set up, and Andrew's going to pop this thing together, pop it apart, and then once we get everything apart, we'll do all that on camera, but once it's all apart, I'll come back and we'll just give it all a once over and see what we got. Stay tuned. So I just seen some stuff when Andrew popped the cover off. This is another perfect example of jack leg rebuilds. So if you'll look right here, there's no gallery plug in the front of the block. All right, that's just one problem. And if you look right here, this is a hex adjust timing set, so it would have had a bushing in here that you can rotate with an Allen key to be able to advance or retard the cam. The button is not even there. So, but this is just, I mean, that's just clapped out nonsense right there. So if this thing had actually went in and crunk up, it'd have had to come right back out, because none of that would have worked. And again, this is just a perfect example of why these, I don't know what else to call them, but Facebook engine builders, I see this garbage all the time. And it's just, I mean, it just costs twice as much to get it done wrong. So just be aware. Used lifters. So check this out. This thing has got used early generation lifters in it. So they didn't even put new lifters in it. Man, what kind of clapped out nonsense is that? I mean, that's just, I don't know. You just needed to see that. All right. All right, so a couple of things right off the bat. So obviously, if we look down in the lower end, the block has never been hot tanked. So, I mean, it's still dirty. Another thing that we can see, and again, this is just more of that cornbread nonsense. I mean, you can see all the carbon still on the crank. And then we got somebody that, you know, like usually you see this kind of stuff when the crank's been sent somewhere to be cleaned and polished and checked or ground or whatever, you know, so we got all this jackleg writing on it like we did something. But I mean, they didn't even clean it. And I mean, it's like, say, you see the water, it's all rusty and it's still nasty and got carbon all over it. I mean, it's sketchy. And then I didn't even get to look at the pistons. And I mean, you can pull pistons. And I mean, they knew, but again, unfortunately, it's just a train wreck. And I don't know if hopefully he'll let you hear it, how tight the main bolts were. I mean, they were way over torqued. Yeah, I mean, you can just see the part line, how nasty it is. I mean, none of that stuff was clean. So again, if it had ever crunk up, it wouldn't have lasted about 15 minutes and it'd have been over with. But yeah, I mean, pretty much we got a bunch of scrap metal. So we're gonna take all of this stuff and we're gonna throw it in the dumpster, and we're gonna probably will actually clean the crank and grind it 10-10, and then we're gonna, you know, the standard operating procedure, the block's gonna get cleaned, it's gonna get line honed, it's gonna get decked, and then we're gonna bore it to a LS1. And like I say, we already got new pistons. We'll probably salvage these rods. We'll clean them and inspect them. But I don't think anything else. Oh yeah, here's a good one. I mean, look at the inside of the timing cover. I mean, you know, like I say, I mean, none of this stuff was cleaned. And we took it off here. We always take them off before we put put them on the stand, the rear cover, so we can get the crank out with it on the stand, and there's no barbell in it neither. So the front plug was left out and the barbell was left out. So again, it's just absolute rookie nonsense. And you can see here on this timing set, it's counterbored in the back. So the bushing goes in from the back. And that way the adjustable bushing can't come out. So they left, so there's no way to time it other than just, you know, there's nothing gonna hold it there because the bolts are slotted, so eventually they would have moved. Was the bearing on the back of it? Yep, so the bearing's missing too. So there's a thrust bearing that goes here, and the thrust bearing wasn't even on it. So, and a lot of times, you know, because most of them is just a real light fit, so the bearing fell off at some point, and I can only assume, because I don't see it here, so the bearing fell off, and then they just put all this on, and it didn't even ever have a bearing on it. So all of that scrap metal. So we basically have a block, a crank, and a set of rods that we're going to reuse, and they'll be fully reworked. But again, this is just another perfect example of that faster, cheaper Facebook engine building. I hear it all the time, you know, oh, there's a guy up the road. Matter of fact, right here, I see it on Facebook Marketplace all the time. They some clap box up here, I don't know, Greer or Easley or something, and they constantly advertising rebuilt LS motors for $1,500, $2,500, and they'll show pictures of them, and none of them's ever got the deck done. They all standard bore pistons, so it's, you know, it's a dingleberry hone job. But that's the kind of stuff you get. And I rebuild, like we do a fair amount of bone stock 5.3s, like literally bone stock. And I mean, one of them is still with a DOD delete. And again, we touch everything. It's going to get deck line honed, crank ground, you know, real pistons, real gaskets, and they end up in the 33 to $3,500 range out the door, you know, and that's a complete long block. But I mean, that's just what it costs. I mean, if you buy a Fel Pro or a Malaclevite gasket set, I mean, the gasket set costs $350, and I mean, a good set of pistons is $250-ish, give or take. So I mean, you just and you're gonna have $1,000 in machine work. So I mean, the chances of getting a LS rebuilt for $2,500 is zero, absolutely zero chance. You might get, you know, a re-ring job and, you know, sprayed off with carburetor cleaner, but it's not going to get rebuilt. But anyway, so we're going to call, I think we're going to call this the Crusty 5.3. So this is going to be episode 1 of the Crusty 5.3. And the next time you see it, the block will be sparkling. And we'll get, I'm sure, I don't know, we got 5 million engines to build. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get to see this one again. We got a bunch of neat stuff coming down the pipeline. I think we've got, I don't know, 20 more engines that you haven't seen yet in line to be built, and some of them some oddball stuff. So I may do a video on what's coming up, because there's a lot of neat stuff that I hadn't seen in a long time coming down the pipeline. So anyway, that'll sum up episode 1. Like, share, subscribe, all the comments, the likes, the shares, it's really helping. Keep in mind, we're not far away. I think the last time I looked, we was like 21,500. When we get to 25,000, we're going to give away a cam kit. So keep that in mind. And you got any ideas, put them in the comments. We'll see you on the next one.